So I'm starting here with one of Vicki Boutin's 12 by 12 foundation papers. That's a mixed media paper, and some of her watercolor brushes. And I'm just putting a few lines down just to get started. And then I took a little spray bottle of water and misted on top of those colors to get the colors moving. And then I'm taking a paintbrush and just sort of moving the color around. So the goal here is to create a background that I can stamp letters onto and then cut those letters out and create a title on a photo. So when I'm creating this, I'm not thinking about how the entire piece of paper looks. I'm really looking at tiny little sections that I can stamp a letter onto. So I'm looking for maybe like 1 to 2 inch little sections that are kind of pretty and hues that I like, and some kind of interesting texture or background to stamp the letters onto. And so what I'm doing really is just experimenting with the way that the colors interact with each other, the way that watercolor, is so fluid and can move really heavily with a lot of water, a little lighter with less water. And every time I do this, I feel like I'm learning. And I blotted this dry here with a paper towel because it was getting way too wet. And sometimes it's sad to do that because I like how rich the colors are, and I didn't like that deep blue. I didn't want to lose that deep blue. But I also don't have, 8 years to wait for it to dry. So sometimes I should probably get a blow dryer, but sometimes the embossing heat gun can work as well, although it sometimes buckles the paper. But so I'm just playing around with random colors, just trying to fill up the paper as much as possible to create a nice background to stamp on. And I, was really surprised by the way that when you put the watercolor brush down and then you mist the water, it really moves a lot. It must take a while to absorb into the paper because there was definitely a lot of movement, and I was able to fill this entire piece of paper with only a little bit of the paint. So I was excited about that. And the paper towel was also really helpful and didn't mess up the image quite as much as I feared that it would. So I was excited about that. So now I'm taking some of the Vicki Boutin gold texture paint and just using the art wedge to just sort of smear it on there. I am telling you that this wedge is infinitely better than the palette knives that I have. Granted, I don't have one of Vicki's palette knives, but I can't believe how much better the art wedge is in terms of getting the texture paste up and on paper in a really clean way. Um, it's just so much better. So here what I'm doing is I'm going through the quote in my head. I'm spelling it out, the quote that I'm going to put on the photo. And I'm just doing each letter at a time, and I'm just finding places on the paper that I think will serve as a cool background for each letter. So you'll see that I'm finding places where the colors overlap, because I think that makes the letters more interesting if they have kind of a cool mixed background of color. And so there's some of them. I was sad because I liked the way that they looked in that picture that I just showed, with these kind of jagged edges, and I wish that I had not fussy cut them out. So I go ahead and put this quote on this picture, but what I end up doing is I was so sad about that, about the other way that I cut those, that I actually made another layout with some extra pieces, and that actually ended up being something I like better than that layout. So I made this, but I didn't video the process. Just some random tidbits that I had left over and kind of put them together like a mosaic, and I really love how that turned out. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks for checking it out.